Let's call on our next guest, András Simonyi, the former Hungarian ambassador to the U.S. András, you heard Bill Richardson there. Do you agree with his assessment that this report will damage U.S. prestige abroad?
One should not exaggerate. I want to make it very clear that I personally think it's a sign of health that the United States is having this discussion. It will perhaps infuriate some, but the bottom line is that this is just another, if you want, another sign of unfortunately growing anti-American sentiments globally, which I find a really dangerous thing. I would think that most Europeans will say, well, this is really terrible, this is bad, but it's a very strong sign of health of democracy that you can have this conversation in the U.S. Congress.
So, András, an ambassador is really the personal and governmental representative of a nation to another government. You served in that role for Hungary. I'm wondering, in terms of personal diplomacy, in terms of day-to-day operations, will the release of the report and the reaction you talk about, the anti-American reaction, how much more difficult would that make a job for a U.S. ambassador anywhere around the world to move forward diplomatically and work constructively with the host governments?
Well, it's good you mentioned the host government. I don't think within the alliance with allied nations in Australia and elsewhere the relationship will be damaged severely, but perhaps there has to be more efforts made towards the public to explain what this is about. And I think it's important to do some damage control, but one should not exaggerate the impact in countries that are friendly to the United States. Of course, in countries where the population is inclined to be anti-American, it will have a negative effect. I would believe. Let me say one thing. When I served here as an ambassador between 2002 and 2007, and I was very closely observing the terrible damage that 9/11 did to the American psyche. So I would say that what happened at that time and what happened with the interrogations, I would suggest we put it in perspective. Not that I agree with the practice, but we do have to put it in perspective.
The context of that post-9/11 era. There you are at Johns Hopkins now. I'm wondering if you can set up for us a little laboratory. Let's say something transpired involving Hungary that was less than complimentary or regarded adversely internationally. In your role as the Hungarian ambassador to the United States, what would you have done to try and make sure that the rift did not become greater between Hungary and the United States? I know we're dealing with hypotheticals, but I'm just interested in that kind of personal checklist you might go through in terms of diplomacy.
Trust me, I had to go through this as the Hungarian ambassador, so I perhaps can offer that I would definitely intensify my contacts not only to the host nation government, but also to lawmakers and also to the greater public. I would definitely try and put myself out to the media in the broadest sense of the word. I wouldn't start writing letters of explanation, but I would put it in a human context, and I think I would use all the personal contacts that I have to ask for support and help to explain what it is about. This is, this is a moment when friends of America have to reach out to America and help out. That is really what I would appeal to. Friends of Hungary, please help us explain now and help us get over this difficult moment,
and
which
András,
I trust is a passing moment.
András, you can help us some more because there are some stories out there we need to talk about with you and get your help from an international perspective. So stay right there, and you stay right there too. Come on back as America's Forum continues. Let's continue our conversation with former Hungarian ambassador to the U.S., András Simonyi, who joins us from Washington, where he now is very active with the School for International Studies at Johns Hopkins. We'll get to Joe Biden's comment in just a minute on this, but there's another report out there that we really need to talk about. Some reports that ISIS has put together a dirty bomb that has entered Europe. Do you believe Europe is prepared to adequately protect itself? And does the release of the CIA report make an attack of this type perhaps more imminent?
Well, I would say that ISIS will use every opportunity to step up its presence in Europe, and of course will use this. They have unfortunately gotten very good in their what I would call traditional public relations, and I think they will use this opportunity to take a step further. Now, the dirty bomb is a real threat. Is a real threat. I would say that Europe has stepped up its security. I think European intelligence is working very hard to sort things out. I think there is a very close cooperation. This is an important element between the United States and Europe on that. And I would say that unfortunately Europe has become more vulnerable to these threats. And I just hope that the cooperation, international cooperation, will get a lot stronger in the next days, weeks, and months.
And you mentioned international cooperation. As I understand it, a lot of European intelligence agencies depend on American Central Intelligence. Is that relationship among European nations with the United States, is that now in jeopardy?
I don't think so. It's among the most precious and most guarded relationships among the allies. And while there might be a public debate, there might be negative undertones in the next couple of days because of the report, but I do not think this will threaten in any way the deep and important cooperation among the allies in terms of security and intelligence.
Because the irony is, publicly there may be a lot of criticism, but behind closed doors these governments need intelligence that oftentimes the American CIA provides.
Yeah, good you mentioned this. I think it is important that you did say there is a lot of things happening behind closed doors. I think it's very important that we Europeans send a message to the United States that this relationship, the security and intelligence relationship, is precious and important, and we will protect it.
András, a little less than 2 minutes remain. Let's go back to Joe Biden. And I know as a former diplomat you don't want to impugn or evaluate anyone's motives, but there was the vice president saying every country in the world has had embarrassing moments, engaged in activities it's not proud of, but here's the American nation stepping forward to deal with this forthrightly. Now, there's a big fallout a lot of us are concerned about with the release of this report. Before the break, you mentioned a situation, and I don't want to dig up bones, so to speak, but there were some episodes when you were the ambassador for Hungary in the United States. Do you find, by and large, that what Joe Biden said was true, that every nation makes mistakes or has made mistakes in the past, and that they would be better off engaging publicly and talking about them?
Well, let me say this. It might be true that every nation has made mistakes. The fact is that as the leader of the free world, the United States, what happens in the United States is far more important than what happens in some smaller countries. So I wouldn't compare, and it really is not important to compare. I think the important thing is to send a strong message that this debate is happening. The pros and cons are being presented, and at the end of the day, the United States will get through this. And my personal belief is that debates like this, openness about things that happen, will make the United States stronger, more attractive as a democracy, and this is the way I think you should think about it. Do not exaggerate. Do not exaggerate.
Fair
what
enough.
has happened
András Simonyi,
in
we
Congress.
thank you for your time and your insight as a former